Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for jumping in and joining today's Tea Time with Taylor. I'm excited to talk about the subject matter with you guys because I feel like it's not something that gets talked about enough. Sometimes it gets overlooked when you're obviously like busy with operations and you're, relying on your alert emails and everything like that. But even in meetings that I have one-on-one with clients, sometimes we'll forget to go over, hey, what are your current open alerts? How can we take action on these? Why is it important to make sure you're really closing out the loop with your funeral customers, with your families? So today is going to be elevating your insights with Performance Tracker. It really is geared towards current Performance Tracker X users. So if you are a user of our platform, you're in the right place. And if you're just interested in the platform, you can definitely hang back as well and view some of these insights because they're really important if you're planning on coming onto the platform. So today we're going to go over why close the loop, what even is closing the loop, what is that phrase? It gets said a lot in customer experience, but if you're not within that CX realm all the time, either within your current role in your company or at a funeral home, if it's operations on the ground, you're probably not talking about CX philosophy a whole lot. So why is it called that and why is it important? Yeah, net promoter score improvements over time and how this is relevant to closing the loop. Overall, we want to make sure that your professional reputation is not only, upheld by your families, but also improving over time. So taking a look at that. Leaving no alert left open in the system. That's really what closing the loop is about with the performance tracker reporting system. So I want to go over, how you can close the loop, making sure that you are actually fulfilling the needs of families that are taking the time to respond to the family care survey or fill out a social media review. And then I will go over some of the trials and tribulations of social media reviews as well. I did mention it briefly, but I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of the proper language to use when you're responding to those reviews because they are online and they're public reference points for either future families that are trying to find you or just marketing in general. And then we'll just go over some housekeeping items, our business consulting services, and then some resources that I always close my tea times out to remind you guys of. So diving into today's subject matter, what does closing the loop mean within the CX philosophy and customer experience in general? At its core, closing the loop is the final and most important step in the customer feedback cycle. It is the deliberate act of responding to customers after they share their feedback to show that their input actually mattered and influenced the business. Now, I did read that verbatim. Typically, I don't like reading off of my slides. So sorry if I botched it a little. But I did that because it is important that you guys just understand the just direct definition of closing the loop and why it's important. Essentially, if families are taking the time to provide that feedback, even if it is positive feedback, you want to share that you appreciate that. You want to continue to build that relationship with the family over time. It might not be as, right away as like sending them a thank you email or something, because we do automatically send a thank you to families after they complete the survey. But maybe, a 90 days down the line, a year anniversary type thing, it does open the door for you to continue that relationship with the family. So the entire philosophy behind closing the loop, it really will make a shift in your intentions with the customer experience from just measuring customers, so just receiving surveys, to actually listening to the customers. Collecting opinions will turn into building relationships. Reporting scores will then be turned into driving accountability and improvement amongst your team members. So I know that's a huge thing for any CX professionals on the call. I know we have a lot of location managers who chime into this tea time every month. So just keep in mind that that's a really why we want to keep closing that loop over time and not just, receiving a feedback and not doing anything with it. So feedback without follow-up is just noise. That's one of my favorite little taglines about closing the loop with customers. And I say customers because it's not just relevant to funeral experience, right? It's not just families and death care. It is in any industry. You want to make sure that your customers are taken care of. But specifically with funeral, obviously that personal touch with families is just inherently present in our day-to-day engagement with families. So we want to go ahead and take advantage of that, right? And really embrace it as much as we can. So for the family care surveys, which is the internal survey that we at Performance Tracker send out to your families, this is just kind of like the important points as to why you want to close the loop. So collecting feedback alone does not improve customer experience. It's really the action that's taken afterwards, right? So closing the loop is the moment when feedback shifts from data collection to action. So you're actually taking advantage of the reporting platform that we have, that you like all the tools that you have with Performance Tracker, and you are taking action and systematically making changes within your organization. It transforms CX from a reporting exercise into a business improvement engine. Again, so just making all of that very actionable, very intentional across your organization. Just a little side note or anecdote, I guess, with this too. That's a huge thing for funeral arrangers. I get asked the question a lot whenever we're onboarding new clients and introducing this program to companies. Like, why does this matter? I get thank you notes from my families all the time. Why does it matter that we're sending out a survey? It's really in order to make a strategic and structured business plan for how you want to improve customer experience over time. Having these same metrics to measure over time is so important. And by closing a loop, which I will show you how to do that in the system, I'll just remind you, because hopefully you guys know how to do it. But there are specific categories that you can rate like a detractor response in, right? Like you can identify the problem and then the action taken. And having that small set of points and using those over time, that's really going to show you patterns in your business and how families are being interacted with by your team members. Now, on the social media review side, so I always like to use Google as my example. So that's why I've got stars here. Google, the highest rating you can get is a perfect 5-star. Customers are not just looking at that star anymore. Yeah, it's a nice like marketing quip to put on your website and be like, yeah, we've got, a 4.9. That's awesome. And those scores certainly are important, but it's really the comments and the actual reviews themselves, and then how the business is responding to those reviews. So I've preached this before in other tea times, and I definitely mention it all the time when I connect with clients one-on-one, is just making sure that, especially if there's a negative response on your social media platforms, that you go ahead and respond to it. Now, you do want to take the conversation offline at some point, I would say after the first response is left, but just trying to get that initial, hey, we care about this, we want to continue the conversation with you, that publishes publicly. So just making sure that that is on your sites is really going to make an impact for getting more funeral business, more cremation business, especially because, as you guys know, and as I've displayed in our data before, that search engine optimization and how people are finding cremation is really going up with Google and with other search platforms. So Mitigating some of these negative reviews. So these are some tips that I've constructed with our business consulting team. And this is meant for the online reputation management, so the actual social media reviews. However, there's no reason why you can't use these same tips for constructing responses in your family care surveys, right? It's not as impactful for your online presence because those are private reviews within your organization, obviously. So I did want to start with that. But demonstrate to potential customers that you guys care about the feedback and that you're actively working on improving your business and committed to addressing any issues that might get brought up or flagged online. What was the internet created for? Complaining, right? That's just what people go to the internet to do, especially when they're leaving reviews. It's something that we've been trying to combat since we brought on Medallia and this new digital platform. So now, like, our Google Promote feature only offers that promotion window to positive responding families. But if someone's really upset about their experience, and even though you've tried to resolve it and everything, they still might go to Google and publish that negative review. So just some tips for constructing responses and making sure they get published. As a reminder, you can publish reviews directly from Performance Tracker under your social performance tab. So the responses under social performance look like this, and then you would just hit this blue respond button, and then you'd be able to publish it, and it does publish directly to Google as well. So just responding promptly, be professional and empathetic, thank the reviewer for their feedback. That I always really like that one. I think that's a great way to start any response on there. Acknowledge and apologize, take responsibility. That's huge and should not be just glazed over. Taking the responsibility and not at all, even between the lines, pointing the finger at your family for any reason. Taking full responsibility for the experience that they had, even if the mistake wasn't directly your fault or your employee's fault. It's not about fault, it's about taking ownership of the experience that your family did have at your business. Personalizing your response. So anything of note that you had a personal interaction with the family is great. Taking the conversation offline, like I said, so making that initial post response and then taking it offline from there. And then highlight your business's strengths. So that can be a little tough to work in, especially when you are working through an apology. But I think that displaying them candidly, like throughout the conversations with families, is really nice. Now, net promoter score improvement over time. I thought that this was relevant to the conversation that we're having today because, we've been working for a while with this new digital platform. I say new, but it's been almost 5 years now that every single client with Performance Tracker has been on our digital platform, powered by Medallia. So all of you guys have been using this software for a while, and the improvements have shown in the data from just using the standard paper feedback survey that Performance Tracker used to use. And I'm not at all knocking that survey. We use a lot of the same questions in our current survey, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about the questions that are being asked when you're closing the loop with families, right? When we were doing our paper surveys with Performance Tracker, there was no follow-up system in play unless an organization had that, on the ground level of operations. But I see Kim with Springfield's on, so I'm going to call you out, Kim. Not every organization has a Kim, a person that's dedicated to customer experience within their funeral home. Not everyone has that. Sometimes it's just the funeral arranger who it's left to get back to families. And I mean, if you weren't really looking at those reports on a one-off basis, then you weren't seeing those responses from families directly. So with the digital system, I think it's I mean, it's probably not the whole reason, right? I'm sure it's like improved customer experience over time, and people are improving their processes in a lot of different ways. But I strongly believe that closing the loop with these families and making sure that responses are managed is a big reason why the net promoter scores have risen so much over the last 4 years of digitalizing this program. So at the end of 2025, on the cemetery side, the Net Promoter Score benchmark was 85.6. So it's the average in the system. And then on the funeral side, it was 90.4. So you can see it's a huge difference from 2021 when we were not doing digital. That was just like beta testing the digital platform at that point. So there was only like two companies, I think, on. So just keep in mind that closing the loop really has a lot of impact. There's a good effect on making sure that that loop is closed. So far in 2026, I took it upon myself to take a look at this data because I noticed at the end of 2025, when I was going through a lot of that data and cleaning up the year, or I mean, closing up the year, that there were a lot of open alerts still at doing this. So a big motivator for the subject matter of this tea time was how can we start off this year right and make sure that all of our funeral professionals are going in and closing the loop with their families. So I was very pleased to see that only 6% of alerts right now are currently open in the system, and that's for performance tracker. But of those 6%, 21% are detractors, and then 79% are lead generation. So, I mean, a lead generation, that's money on the table for you guys. Like sometimes that's, pre-need, no matter what it is, though, even if it's not someone wanting to, sign a new engagement with you right away, it is someone who wants to continue their relationship with you and they're interested in more information from your funeral. So don't leave these behind. That 79%, that's huge. Making sure that those get addressed and quote unquote closed in the system. Now, detractors, they're obviously a little bit more complicated to close out because you do have to fill out that case management form, which I'll go over shortly. But 21%, that's not great. Having a 20% difference of open detractor alerts, that means that those families had negative experiences and those funeral homes are not following up with families about it. And if they are, and if they're doing that internally and not going into the system to market, that means that you're not tracking that activity over time. And while it is good that you are taking the time to close the loop with your families and actually talk to them, actually doing it into the system is going to record that response, record the action taken, and allow you guys to track that over time. So I just thought those were important stats to bring up here. Now, this is kind of a reminder back from any onboarding training that you guys did with me from the very beginning. But I thought it was important to go over just the alert notification process with Performance Tracker. So after a family completes their survey, most of the time it is with email. We see that in our stats, but sometimes it is over text message or even a paper response gets inputted. Either way, that alert is triggered via email to all of the funeral professionals and users of Performance Tracker who are assigned to receive those alerts. Then that email notification is automatically assigned to a specific member of the team, whether it's the arranger or the location manager. I work with a lot of organizations that typically have the location manager following up with families, especially in the case of a detractor score. But maybe it's pre-need and it's your pre-need salesperson who is following up with the family. But either way, you want to be following up with the family. Obviously, with a detractor score, I would recommend doing it over the phone and making sure that action is taken and it's a little bit more personable than just an email. But if the follow-up process is not followed through in the system and you actually go out and close the alert, there will be an escalated alert that comes through 48 hours after that alert actually coming in for the first time. So it's important to just make sure you avoid some of those escalations by making sure that you can get everything in the follow-up process completed. Then I'm filling out the case management form for a detractor, making sure that the root cause is identified. Now, just for purposes today, I did, like for my presentation deck, I did put a screenshot in here, but I want to go out and go to the live system. That way I can pull a detractor response and show you guys an example of closing that, just in case there are any newer users, or maybe you're one of the organizations that doesn't take advantage of that closing the loop process. So just a reminder here. But one of my favorite ways to find it is by our smiley face chart, which is what I put that in air quotes because it's what everyone affectionately refers to it as, but it's technically called our recent feedback feed. So if you're in that executive summary tab as an executive user, and you go in to scroll down to your smiley faces, you can hover over any of the detractors that have come in and just open it. Let's see here. I'm going to expand it so we can see the full response. Now you can see it's a 1 out of 10. It's a negative. It does go to the next state in 3 days. So it's currently overdue, and then it will go to escalated. Respond. So you can respond to the family. I wouldn't recommend doing that, obviously, because it's a detractor. You don't want to just email them. You want to call and try and resolve things that way and explain. But when you are ready to close the alert, so after you have that conversation with the family, you just want to go in and select this close alert button. It's loading for a second here. There we go. So after this close alert button is selected, this case management form does pop out. So the only required areas to fill out are the problem area and then the action taken. And like I was saying a couple of slides ago in my discussion here, there is a limited list here, and that's very intentional. We wanted to do that. That way you guys could narrow down experiences and track them over time instead of just selecting other every time. But if it truly is other, obviously putting in some details is really going to help. In any scenario, I think putting in as much detail as possible is important. Now, I mean, if you're a location manager and you want to share this with your executive or your higher up, or even the arranger who worked with the family, you can share this alert and the actual case management form with them as well by selecting here. Whenever you're done completing the information in this form, you just want to select update report and close alert, and then it will update and close out of the system. So then the alert is no longer in the open status and you have officially closed the loop with the family. Where those go to live after you've updated the report is in your Resolve tab here at the very top of the page. Now, it's important that I point out, in case there's any arranger users on the call, this tab is only available to location manager users and executive users. So if you don't see it up there, you might be an arranger user. But this is where you can go in to see those alerts over time and how they're being closed. So you can see just in this test area, you can see all of the open alerts that are in the system and closed out alerts. But where you can improve, all of that stuff records over time. You can see it in either this table format, in a graph format. I like the table format. It tells you more information. So let's see here. I think the bar graph over here works. Yeah. So the distribution of problems over time, it's a lot easier for me to read it in table form though. So, and then also with the table form, you get the benchmark. So this is just a test module. So these numbers match right now, but they wouldn't in your own dashboard. It'll be your numbers versus what's in the system for the average. So just paying attention to, reasons why problems are occurring. I would say looking at this tab, maybe on like a quarterly or biannual basis is probably best. If you work with one of our business consultants on like an incentive compensation plan and you're meeting with them quarterly, I know Vince, I work with Vince a lot. He takes the time to go over this tab and review any detractors that you guys may have received in the quarter. But just remember that this is where all of those responses go to compile, and it's really important to review this information and gain that insight. That way you're taking action, you're making moves, and you're creating a plan for your business and not just receiving this data and doing nothing with it. So I'm going to go back over to our slide deck now. Let's see. Also, I do want to point out if anyone has any questions, I should have said this at the beginning of the call, but obviously you can put in a chat, you can put in the Q&A. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have along the way. But as we wrap things up today, I do just want to mention that we have our leadership and management workshop coming up for the spring session. There are still a few spots available. So if you guys are interested in that at all, or you have a budding leader on your team who would benefit from attending this course, it is a 3-day on-site development workshop with our business consulting team. So it's going to be Nelson and Vince, and I believe Derek Hussman comes now as well. And they go in deep, not just on performance tracker. It's like that's like a very small piece of what they go over, because it is a tool that all of our consultants use. But this is really an effective course for anyone in your organization who needs some leadership and management training resources. They also offer CX workshops, business assessments. They have incentive compensation plans. All of those services are relevant to Performance Tracker and what you guys are currently getting out of your data. So if you guys are interested in learning more about those services, just reach out to me and I would be happy to put you in touch with one of our consultants so they can go over that with you. Kind of a look ahead at next month's Tea Time. It's going to be centered around our annual our Excellence in Customer Service Awards for Performance Tracker. It's a coveted award that is released in Q1 at the beginning of every year. We do award the top performing 15 locations of 3 different call size categories. So larger organizations, medium, and small. We are in the process right now of alerting those winners. So if I've already talked to you, congratulations. And if we're still hoping to connect, then you'll probably hear from me in the next week or so. But I want to make sure that everyone, has a chance to go over some of the results and see like, hey, what are these top performing organizations doing to get these scores? We're going to interview some of the winners live on our Tea Time. I'm hoping to get 3 participants. So we're in talks to get those guests right now. But I am excited about next month and going over some of these calls and really talking to the operators themselves and the people who are getting these high scores from families. Now, just a reminder, webinar archive is available to you in your dashboard. If you guys go over to the support tab in your dashboard area, that tab is available to every user role. It doesn't matter what level you have access to. You can gain all of these past Tea Times that I've gone through. I've also linked them here in the slide deck if you want to see, but the most recent ones are going to be available in your resources tab under support. So just a friendly reminder on that. And then, of course, our support team is available to you guys whenever you need. We will get back to you during JCG business hours, which is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Arizona time, Mountain Standard right now. So just keep that in mind if you're waiting on a response. We're Monday through Friday, so we will get back to you. But if you have any questions or anything, or if you guys have any inquiries or maybe a tech issue going on, just reach out to us. We all on our team receive those responses. I will most likely be the person that you talk to because I'm in there all the time. But everyone on our team has eyes on it, and we'll make sure that your request gets over to the right person. So just a reminder that we do want to hear from you guys, the actual attendees of Tea Time with Taylor. If you guys have any requests or ideas for subject matter that we can go over in these webinars, please let me know. We do gear this specifically towards Performance Tracker X users and, this CX mentality of our platform is definitely expandable in a lot of ways beyond just survey reporting. So I want to make sure that any questions that you guys have are getting answered, and I'm here to answer them for you. So I appreciate you guys joining today. It looks like I'm ending like right on time, which never happens for anyone who is in here a lot. I will stay on just for a minute or two longer to see if anyone has any questions, but if not, you can feel free to jump off, and I appreciate you guys joining today. Thank you so much.